Hello and welcome to this Astranti industry analysis video of TreadCushy. In this video, we're going to go through the type of industry that TreadCushy operates in, as well as some key examples that you might use in your exam. Before we get into the analysis itself, we need to set out exactly why we're doing this kind of industry analysis. Well, this is because the examiners specify that we should do this. In the exam report, it's stated that an awareness of the industry that the business is in is crucial in order to access the highest marks in the exam. And then there's the role that you will have to play in the exam. You will be a finance officer working within the finance department of TreadCushy. This means you're involved in the preparation of management accounting information, as well as sometimes you'll be assisting with the preparation of financial statements and financial reporting and other financial matters. You have to provide logical business advice as though you're an employee working in the industry, and this means that a knowledge of the industry is absolutely key. And that is what this industry analysis is going to help you to achieve. Naturally though, the industry is massive, and this means that there's simply too much information to cover everything. So that's where we come in. In this industry analysis, we've scoured the web for journals and magazines, finding the most relevant information, collecting it all together in one place. So all you have to do is read this report, learn everything, and then use any of the information or examples that you feel are relevant in the exam. So now that we've set the scene, it's time to start actually getting into the analysis itself. In chapter 2, this is an introduction to the sports footwear industry. I'm going to start with a quick history of the industry. So as you can see, people have obviously been wearing shoes for millennia. However, the idea of shoes specifically for sports or athletic purposes has only sort of came about in the past century or so. The origin of sports footwear can kind of be traced back to 1832. And at this point, the shoes were unrecognizable from what we know today. They were sort of had rubber soles stuck onto shoes, making them a bit more bouncy, a bit more malleable, and this made them more effective for use in a sports setting. And even though these were unrecognizable today, they were fairly revolutionary for the time. We'd never really seen shoes like these before, and they began to become more popular in the 1870s, becoming what we now know as sneakers in the USA. Meanwhile, running shoes used specifically for running, they often featured spikes in order to aid grip. Now today, these are mainly used for professionals, but they are still available for casual runners too. In the 20th century, we started to see some of the iconic brands that we know today. In 1908, Marquis Converse founded Converse, initially designed with basketball in mind, and they became known as the Chuck Taylors after they enlisted the help of Chuck Taylor, a famous basketball player, in 1921 to help sell the shoes. Now, the other big brands to come around in this period were Adidas, founded by Adi Dassler in the 1920s, popularized by Jesse Taylor, the famous athlete in his gold medal winning Olympic run. Now, Adi and his brother Rudolph, they had a falling out and they ended up having a pretty iconic rivalry, forming two separate companies, Adidas and Puma. Today, two of the biggest apparel companies in the world, the second and third biggest companies in the industry. Now, post-war was really when athletic shoes started to become popular as more of a fashion item, and they're popular amongst young people. Converse was still dominating the market, both in terms of sports usage and in terms of fashion. However, in the 1960s, the dominance of Converse started to decline, particularly with the arrival of what became Nike. The 60s also saw the arrival of New Balance, today one of the biggest players in the sports shoe market. And as you can see here, Converse dominance really began to wane. It started to wane in the 60s, but the 70s was when it really became apparent. Jogging was becoming more and more popular, and companies like Nike and Adidas and Reebok could make but shoes that were more fitted to this kind of purpose. And then, as we know, by the end of the 20th century, the athletic shoe industry was worth billions. And as is the case today, brands like Adidas, Nike, Reebok, they're some of the biggest and most recognizable brands in the world. And so that there gives you kind of a brief summary of the history of the athletic shoe industry. And so now we're going to move on to how exactly does this relate to TreadCushy. Now, TreadCushy, as you can see, was founded in 2007, making it a significantly younger brand than most of its competitors. You know, the big players like Adidas and Nike that have been around long prior to this in the 1900s. So this is going to create a real challenge for TreadCushy. The industry is dominated by these large firms. They're well established and they have a lot of loyal customers. However, as is key, TreadCushy differentiates itself. There's a big focus on ethics and corporate social responsibility. All their shoes are natural, recyclable, they're aiming to be carbon neutral. And in this industry, that is a rarity. Ethics are not something which brands like Nike and Adidas are particularly known for. They've been embroiled in controversies around poor working conditions in factories that they produce their shoes in. So the vast amount of competition present in this industry means that it must have been extremely difficult for TreadCushy to differentiate itself. However, as we can see in the pre-scene, they do have a fairly loyal customer base. This is very likely to be linked to their sustainability credentials and also the quality of their designs. Now, a final thing to kind of note, TreadCushy is a specialist company. It focuses solely on athletic shoes. They don't offer other kinds of apparel. Now, this makes them different to their competitors. You know, as I'm sure you're aware, Nike, Adidas, Puma, over time, they've built into more than just athletic shoes. They produce athletic clothing, other equipment, footballs, basketballs, all other kinds of equipment. So now let's have a look at the kind of products that we are discussing, the types of sports footwear. Now, the obvious ones are the running shoes, light cushion shoes. They're designed for jogging, but often these days they are used for more casual wear as well. As we scroll down, you can see walking shoes like the Caramore Mount Low. These are pretty much the opposite of running shoes, very heavy, firm, designed for grip and durability. Then we have weightlifting shoes, basketball shoes, football boots, skate shoes, all these different kinds of shoes. Now, these are the types of products that not only TreadCushy but their rivals are producing. And as you can see, we have examples here of all different kinds. Now, barefoot shoes are an interesting one. They are extremely lightweight, designed to mimic the feeling of running barefoot. Now, these are an example of innovation in the industry. A fairly recent development, so still priced a little higher than your average running shoe, but certainly something that TreadCushy will have to be aware of, and we'll get into discussing that in more detail a bit later on. Now we're going to take a look at some of the major competitors that TreadCushy is going to be up against, and I'm sure you're going to recognize most of these names. You've got Nike, Adidas, the VF Corporation, and as we scroll down, Skechers, New Balance, Puma, lots of big brands. That's the bottom line, is that the athletic shoe industry is full of these massive brands, and therefore it is going to be difficult for TreadCushy to carve out a niche in order to be successful. Now let's take a look at some of the trends in the athletic footwear industry. Now, as we've discussed already, the athletic footwear market is dominated by several giant companies. Nike have 27% of the market, Adidas have a slightly smaller percentage, but still fairly dominant. And then you have other large brands, Under Armour and Puma. Now, in this industry, a big feature is that customer loyalty is high, particularly but there's a strong rivalry between Nike and Adidas, and people do tend to be fairly loyal to those brands. And furthermore, the competition between these companies is much more focused around branding rather than pricing or even the products themselves. It's all about the brand in this kind of industry. Now, as far as the market size, the market has experienced fairly consistent growth over the past decade, and it is expected to only continue to rise. Sports and fitness is becoming more and more popular. People are becoming more health conscious. We can look at this. Sports participation has actually increased in the UK by 4% since 2018. Now, this might not sound particularly significant, but 4% is have a fairly big impact on the industry as a whole. Particularly running shoes actually are becoming more popular as a result of this. As you can see, as in 2019, running shoes accounted for 39% of the growth in the US footwear industry. And so we talked about the increased popularity of fitness and sports. Another factor that's contributing to the growth of the market is the urbanization of society. More and more people are living in cities as opposed to in rural areas. This means they have greater access to facilities like gyms, as well as sports teams. And the bottom line of this is that as populations become increasingly city dwelling, the demand for sports footwear is being driven upwards. Now, another trend in the industry is these athlete endorsements. These are really key components of a lot of these companies' marketing campaigns. The most famous, I'm sure you're aware, collaborations between Nike and Michael Jordan on the Jordan shoes, or Puma and Usain Bolt. Both these collaborations have proved extremely successful for these companies, really helping to build their brands. And as we've discussed already, branding is key in this industry. It's much more about the strength of the brand than it is about the products or it is about the pricing. With regards to the production of the products, it's a pretty firm trend amongst these large companies that the products are produced in Asia. Nike, Adidas, Puma, they all manufacture the majority of their products in countries like China, countries like Vietnam. And the reasons for this trend, there are a few factors: lower wage rates, less corporate regulation. This means that companies are able to keep their manufacturing costs down and therefore improve their profit margin as a result. So how exactly do these trends relate specifically to TreadCushy? Now, in terms of market control, TreadCushy made $68 million in revenue for the year ending in 2021. Now, this is naturally dwarfed by Nike's $44 billion revenue. And even smaller companies, well, slightly smaller companies like New Balance, they're still raking in around $5 billion. So what does this mean? This means TreadCushy controls a relatively small portion of the global athletic footwear market. However, we can look at the data around TreadCushy sales and see they are selling, the majority of their sales are going to customers in Keyland. So this kind of suggests that they may be focusing on the domestic market as opposed to expanding internationally as of right now. So based on this, we can assume that TreadCushy, they're not going to be able to compete anytime soon with the biggest players in the market. They don't have the market share in order to do so. However, this doesn't mean that they can't be successful. We can think of companies like Geox, where they've really crafted out a niche with their breathing shoes. TreadCushy's environmentally friendly model and focus on corporate social responsibility can mean that they may be able to craft themselves out a niche and be successful in this market. Now, with the growth of the market, and particularly the growth in the popularity of running shoes, growing at a steady rate and being forecast to continue to do so, this can only be good for TreadCushy. They're producing running shoes as one of their main products, and as the industry continues to grow in size, this can only be good for TreadCushy. We can already observe that the growth of the market is reflected in their bottom line. Their revenues have increased by 13% between 2020 and 2021. With regards to athlete endorsements, naturally, we can look at the finances of TreadCushy. They're not going to be a big enough organization to be able to afford the endorsement of a global star athlete. Whilst Puma pays Usain Bolt around $10 million a year, these kind of finances are just not available for TreadCushy. However, As we've seen, they have a key focus on the domestic market in Keyland. They could look to get an endorsement from an athlete based there. Most of their revenue is coming from customers in Keyland, and so if they could get the endorsement of an athlete native to Keyland who's popular there, this could have a massive impact on their bottom line, and they could see a significant growth in the strength of their brand, which, as we've already discussed, is vital in this industry. Now, production is one of the big ways that TreadCushy is different from its competitors. It does all of its production in a single facility in Keyland. This is totally contrasting to the big players in the market who are doing their production all across the world, but largely in Asian countries in the hope of cutting costs. So how exactly could this benefit TreadCushy? Well, the obvious reason is that Nike and Adidas have both come under criticism for their poor working conditions and taking advantage of weak employment laws in these countries. So yes, they are cutting costs, but there have been many accusations of unethical behavior from these companies. So by manufacturing in-house, TreadCushy can avoid this kind of negative press and even gain positive press, because many customers today favor companies that do not outsource their production. So another benefit that TreadCushy will have is that they will be able to retain control over the production process. This means they can maintain quality standards. And particularly with regards to TreadCushy, with their sustainable and recyclable business model, it is really important that they retain control so they're able to check and ensure that their products meet these kind of sustainable standards that they've set for themselves. And the last benefit we have is that by manufacturing in-house, TreadCushy will have flexibility that their rivals don't have. They'll be able to respond to the competitive environment, whilst their competitors may be delayed as their production facilities are scattered around the world. So we've now finished running through the bulk of the industry pack, and we've given you a lot of information about the industry, the athletic shoe industry in this case. However, though, you need to be able to use this knowledge in the exam. You might, it's all very good well knowing it, but you have to be able to use it. And the easiest way to do this is to be able to quote relevant industry examples and explain how these affect the issues in your exam. So I'm going to run you through 3 industry examples now, how you're going to use these in the exam, what kind of topics they might relate to. So first of all, the Nike Vaporfly caused controversy at the Olympics. Why? Because it contained this innovative technology, a thickened sole containing this Pebax foam, which made the transfer of energy to the runner increased. Now, these caused controversy because they were so effective, they actually gave runners what was perceived as an unfair advantage, although these were eventually approved for use during the 2020 Olympic Games. So how does this relate to the pre-scene? Well, TreadCushy is also perceived as an innovative brand, and this example really demonstrates that the top performing companies in this industry, they're always looking to innovate, bring in new technology, push the bounds of what is possible to build into a shoe. So the kind of issues you want to use this example: innovation, industry trends, technology, these kind of issues. And a sample exam paragraph. So this is intended to show you how exactly you might use this in the exam. So you start out by pointing out that TreadCushy are seen by investors as an innovative brand looking to use new materials, unique designs in the production process. So they should therefore continue to work with new technologies in order to develop these innovative products. And many of their competitors have put emphasis on this. Now, this is when you might bring in the industry example. For example, Nike's use of Pebax foam in their Vaporfly running shoe proved to be hugely successful, both in maximizing the performance of runners and in driving sales of the product.
So thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you found it useful. I'd just like to take a moment to talk about some of the different case study products we offer here at Astranti. All of these products are available together as a package as part of our case study course. However, they can also be purchased individually. So we have our exam technique series, which comprises both a study text and a video series. So in this product, we'll teach you how to plan your answers, analyse the case study material, and manage your time in the exam. So all of these are vital skills that you need to have to make sure you don't miss out on any marks. We also have our theory revision series, which again is both a study text and a series of videos. So these talk about specific theories relevant to your case study exam. These are all topics that are frequently tested, and so this part of our course is directly tailored to the exams that you will be sitting. Additionally, we have our pre-scene analysis. So as part of this, there will be a video that goes through the pre-scene document point by point to discuss the most important aspects that you need to know ahead of your exam. Additionally, there will be a video that will talk about the top 10 most likely unseen issues that are likely to come up in the exam. Plus, we have the strategic analysis video. This will be talking about the key models taken from the CIMA syllabus and then discuss how they apply directly to the case study that you will be looking at. We also have our industry analysis, a comprehensive document that looks at the different aspects of the real-world industry that the case study company operates within. So this will give you everything from an overview of the history of the industry to any issues relating to corporate social responsibility and protecting the environment, analysis of real-world competitors to the case study company, and overall trends in that industry. It will also provide 25 real-world industry issues that can be used as examples in the exam. In addition to this document, there is also an accompanying video. We also provide mock exams, which are based on past case study exams, and also based on the exact case study that you will be tested on. Therefore, they are designed to be as close as we possibly can get them to the actual exam you will be sitting. We also offer marking and feedback. So if you purchase this, you'll get a tutor to go through your exam script, tell you if you would have passed your exam, and also tell you what you could have done better going forward. You'll also get comments on your exam technique, so all the different things to help you get as prepared as possible for sitting the real thing. We also offer question packs. So if you'd like to practice a specific part of the CIMA syllabus, you can look at a question pack directly tailored to that area, so you can get that vital practice in ahead of your exam. We also offer 2 all-day masterclasses, one at the start of the course and one at the end. So the first one will be covering how to plan effectively ahead of your exam. Then the second is a revision masterclass, which will be going through all the material that you've been learning throughout your studies to give you a nice refresher before sitting that exam. So head over to www.astranti.com for more information about all of these case study products. Until then, I'd like to take the chance to wish you all the best of luck for your case study exam.